After my death, he finally said he loved me, in the middle of the night, as my fever neared 39 degrees Celsius. He was accompanying his first love. I called him to come back, but he said, "Julia, you're so cold-hearted, you have no compassion. Sherry is depressed, she needs me." After our divorce, he kept calling me. I didn't answer, and he accused me of being temperamental, but he didn't know that I had already passed away, in the middle of the night. As I suddenly developed a fever close to 39 degrees, I called George. "Honey, I have a fever, when are you coming back?" George replied impatiently, "I'm busy, just take some medicine yourself." "But I'm really feeling terrible, you." Before I could finish, George interrupted me irritably. "Sherry is feeling down, I need to be with her, I won't be home tonight." I was stunned and frowned. Sherry was George's first love. Why does it have to be you? Doesn't she have other family and friends? George's discontent came through. "Julia, you're so cold-hearted, you have no compassion. Sherry has depression, she needs me." After he spoke, he hung up the call. I felt a chill in my heart, took some medicine to reduce the fever, and was just about to go to sleep when a message popped up on my phone. I thought it was George, but it wasn't. It was a photo of George cooking in the kitchen. There was also a message attached. "I heard that in your 7 years of marriage, you were the one taking care of George. That must have been hard, but when he's with me, he's the one taking care of me." Sherry's message oozed with smug satisfaction. My fingers clenched around the phone, frozen. "In 7 years of marriage, I never knew George could cook. We were poor, and my mother died shortly after I was born. I was ridiculed from childhood, called a motherless wild thing. In middle school, I was bullied by several classmates. George stood up to protect me because his family was well off, and the bullies dared not provoke him, so they ran away. At that time, I was pushed to the ground, bleeding from my palms. He found hydrogen peroxide and adhesive bandages and carefully tended to my wounds, asking if it hurt. You see, aside from my dad, no one had ever shown me such care. Looking at him, gentle and handsome, my heart stirred. But it wasn't long before he transferred to another school, and I never saw him again. Until college, when I met him again. He wasn't just handsome, he was also a top student, the acknowledged heartthrob of the campus. I gathered my courage and wrote him a love letter. He didn't accept it, but I persisted for 2 years. A like from him on social media could delight me for half a day. Every post he made felt like a reading comprehension exercise to me. He was like a beam of light shining into my life. Even though he never reciprocated my love, I was still willing to give my all for him. On the eve of our graduation, he suddenly agreed to be with me. I was ecstatic, as if I had found a treasure, eager to tell everyone in the school that George was my boyfriend. Later, I discovered that he chose to be with me only because Sherry, the girl he liked, decided to study abroad. Even his acceptance of my marriage proposal was spurred by learning from a classmate that Sherry had a new boyfriend, and he was acting out of spite. After we married, I cooked for him every day, did the laundry, and took care of all the housework, doing everything I could to treat him well. But from the beginning to the end, he never loved me. I thought my genuine feelings could touch his heart and warm it. How foolish I was. George didn't come home all night. The next morning, I took a taxi to the neighborhood where Sherry lived. As soon as I got out of the cab, I saw George and Sherry walking hand in hand, and my eyes dimmed with sadness. Whenever I wanted to hold his hand in public, he would say we were too old for such displays of affection. I followed them to the market where George and Sherry chatted and laughed like a newlywed couple. Watching George stand in front of the vegetable stall, I forced a smile. There was a time when I had a stomach flu and asked him to buy groceries. He refused, saying he hated going to the market. In the end, he just ordered takeout for me. It turned out he didn't hate the market, he just disliked me. He bought quite a lot of vegetables. And when the vendor handed him the bag, Sherry took it from him, saying, "Give it to me." The vendor smiled. "Your wife is really nice." George didn't object and his smile grew wider. They turned around and saw me. George frowned. "Julia, are you following me?" I looked at him emotionlessly. "Didn't you say you hated coming to the market?" "Sherry isn't feeling well, I'm just taking care of her. Do you have to be so petty? So when I'm sick, I only get takeout." "But she gets to eat meals you've cooked," George said coldly. "Enough, Julia, don't make a scene." Sherry held onto George's arm. "George, don't fight because of me. If Julia doesn't like you taking care of me, then go home with her first." I watched her coldly. What an act, George told Sherry. Wait here for me. Then he quickly walked over to me and pulled me aside. Julia, we're adults. Can you stop being so childish and jealous? If I liked Sherry, why would I have married you? I was still feverish and felt dizzy. Can you come home with me now? No, George refused quickly. Julia, there's really nothing between Sherry and me. Don't jump to conclusions and make things difficult. I looked at him. If you go home with me now, I'll believe there's nothing between you two. George's expression changed. Believe it or not, Julia. After saying that, he walked over to Sherry, took her hand, and left. Watching his retreating figure, a wave of sadness overwhelmed me. George and I had our sweet times too. We used to watch the sunrise at sea together. He would surprise me with gifts on my birthday. He would call me during business trips to say he missed me. It was only when I accidentally saw his chat with a friend that I realized he agreed to be with me because I looked like Sherry from the side. He was just using me as a substitute for Sherry. In the evening, I returned home and unexpectedly found George sitting in the living room. He stood up when he saw me. His handsome face serious. Come here, I need to talk to you. I had just walked over when I heard him say, this afternoon, I took Sherry to the hospital for a checkup, and that's when we found out she has uremia. The doctor said it's already in the late stages and her condition is very critical. You should get a kidney compatibility test done. If you're a match, you should donate one of your kidneys to her. I was stunned and asked in disbelief, what did you just say? George looked at me displeased. Why are you so surprised? You've always been quite healthy. Losing a kidney won't kill you. It's different for Sherry. Without this kidney, she will die. His words made me laugh in frustration. George, you're actually asking me to donate a kidney to Sherry. Sure, losing a kidney won't kill me, but it will still impact my health in some ways. George seemed unbothered and showed a look of disappointment. Julia, we're talking about a human life here. Are you really going to stand by and do nothing? I scoffed. Why don't you donate your kidney to her then? George was taken aback. You know my health. I catch a cold with just a slight carelessness. I can't donate. After a pause, he added, if you want to continue being with me, you'll donate your kidney to her, or else we're getting a divorce. I fell silent, looking at George's face. After 7 years of marriage, if he had any love for me, he wouldn't force me to donate my kidney to Sherry, nor would he threaten me with divorce. George pressed on. Julia, are you going to donate the kidney or not? Taking a deep breath, I replied, I won't donate my kidney to her. Let's get a divorce. George was momentarily stunned. He hadn't expected me to agree to the divorce. I turned around. Let's go file for divorce now. Our marriage had reached its end. There was no point in forcing it to continue. George and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle the divorce procedures. When I received the divorce certificate, I didn't feel as sad as I thought I would. Instead, I felt a huge sense of relief. Just as I was about to leave, a sudden severe pain surged through my head. I had been struck with a stick. As I was passing out, I heard George's voice, Julia. We may be divorced, but you're still going to donate that kidney. I don't know how George managed it, but when I woke up, I found myself in the hospital, missing a kidney. Clenching my teeth, I trembled with rage. Just then, George walked in, carrying takeout. You're awake. Have some food to regain your strength, he said as he pulled a plastic container probably filled with porridge from the bag and handed it to me. I swiped it away, and the porridge spilled on the floor. George looked at me displeased. Julia, what are you making a fuss about? My face was as pale as paper, but my eyes were dark with sorrow. George, do you realize what you've done is illegal? George paused, then his expression turned cold. Julia, your kidney saved Sherry's life. You should feel honored, not ungrateful. You know my family's influence. It's no good for you to confront me about this. You'd better just focus on recovering, okay? I glared at him angrily. The pain was heart-wrenching. He was certain that I was powerless and unable to seek justice for myself. How foolish I was to have loved him all these years. Get out. When I told him to leave, George's face turned ugly, and he left immediately. My best friend Linda rushed to the hospital after receiving the news. She cursed furiously. George is heartless and despicable. How could he do such a thing? Isn't he afraid of divine retribution, in front of my best friend? I couldn't hold back my tears. Linda wanted to confront George to get some answers, but I stopped her. If George dared to do this, he must have prepared his defenses. It would be pointless to seek him out. I didn't want to drag Linda into this. Linda stayed with me in the hospital the entire time, but I wasn't doing well. One day, I overheard Linda talking to the doctor and discovered that my other kidney was failing and I didn't have much time left. No wonder I had been feeling unwell these past few days. I sighed deeply and took the chance to leave the hospital while Linda was out of the room, facing imminent death. I didn't want to stay in the hospital. I wanted to see the beautiful world one last time. Dragging my failing body, I walked along the road. Suddenly, a truck came barreling straight towards me, causing my pupils to shrink drastically. In the next second, my body was hurled through the air. Blood splattered everywhere. I was dead. Killed in that car accident. When I came to, I found myself floating mid-air. It turned out that my resentment was too strong, which kept my soul lingering in this world, unable to be reborn. Thinking back, I realized that my life had been quite miserable. In the hospital, I was covered with a white sheet. Linda held my body and wept bitterly. Seeing her so devastated made me sad too. It's strange how even in death, I could feel such strong emotions. I couldn't bear to stay any longer. So I drifted away, not knowing where to go. I floated back home. Unexpectedly, George had brought Sherry back with him. Sherry surveyed the living room, which was filled with traces of my life. She scoffed, "You haven't thrown out Julia's stuff, are you still hung up on her?" George immediately clarified, "I never loved her. If she hadn't clung to me so desperately, I would never have married her. I told you before. Julia's status was not worthy of you, you just wanted to spite me," Sherry said as she embraced George with a suggestive look. "Luckily, I'm back now." George smiled, patted her head, and said, "Sit on the sofa, I'll make some porridge for you." Then he headed to the kitchen, busy at work. I glanced at the porridge he was making. It was the nourishing porridge I used to make for him when he felt unwell. He tasted a spoonful and immediately frowned, probably finding it unpalatable. He picked up his phone and called me. He probably wanted to ask how to make the porridge taste better, but I was dead. How could I answer his call? He called several times, and each time I didn't respond, he angrily slammed his phone down on the counter. After a while, his phone rang. He picked up immediately. "Julia, what are you playing at?" Ignoring my calls. Instead, it was Linda's angry voice on the line. "George, how dare you reach out to Julia? Do you know she's dead?" George coldly replied, "It's just a missing kidney. Stop pretending to be dead. Tell her to stop playing these silly games. I don't have time for this." With that, he hung up. He didn't believe I was dead. He thought I was using this as a way to win him back, which is absurdly wrong. If there's an afterlife, I never want to meet him again. I turned away and floated into the living room, sitting on the sofa opposite Sherry, overhearing her phone conversation. "The money's received. I'll treat you to dinner soon. There aren't that many kidneys available. That fool Julia got hit by a car and died." I was stunned. Sherry continued, "I knew we should have waited until we got her other kidney before letting her die." From Sherry's conversation, I learned she never suffered from kidney disease. It was all a lie to George for money, selling my kidney at a high price. And my car accident was no accident. She had someone deliberately kill me. I was so angry I tried to choke her, but I forgot I was just a spirit. Unable to touch her, Sherry hung up the call and, spotting my water glass on the table, casually threw it into the trash. Cursed short-lived. I glared at Sherry, wishing I could become a vengeful ghost to claim her life. Sherry stood up, walked into the kitchen, and hugged George's waist. "Isn't it ready yet?" "Almost," he replied. Although George could cook, he wasn't good at it. When he was with me, I did all the cooking. Now, his fingers were already blistered from the heat. Sherry didn't notice the hint of disappointment that flickered in George's eyes, a sense of an indescribable letdown. Usually, George getting a headache would have me worried for hours, rushing to find ways to ease his pain. Suddenly, Sherry suggested, "Why don't we sell this house?" George hesitated. Sherry continued, "She used to live in this house, and I really dislike it. Let's sell it and buy a new one." Sherry knew I was already dead and had no relatives, so she could do whatever she wanted with the house, which was infuriating. George never refused Sherry's requests and was always accommodating. "Okay," he agreed. Sherry smiled. After dinner, Sherry mentioned she had to leave early for some errands. George saw my cup thrown in the trash and bent down to pick it up. He stared at my cup, lost in thought. In the following days, he occasionally stared at his phone, seemingly distracted. I think he was probably waiting for my call. I never used to miss his calls, and it had been several days without me reaching out to him. My father had passed away a few years ago, and Linda took care of all my affairs after my death. I was touched, thankful to still have her. However, my resentment was too strong. I couldn't rest in peace, and my soul wandered endlessly. George proposed to Sherry, and they began planning their wedding. He was eager to marry Sherry. Soon, the wedding day arrived, and the George family invited many prominent guests, making it a grand affair. When George and I got married, we just registered and had a simple meal because George didn't want to make it a big deal. Now, marrying Sherry, he seemed to want to announce it to the whole world. Seeing them happily married, I felt extremely resentful. Why should George get his wish by stepping over my dead body to marry the woman he wanted? Sherry deceived me out of my kidney to sell for money, had someone kill me, and yet lived as if nothing had happened. It was so unfair. I watched them, surrounded by a dark mist of resentment. At the peak of my anger, I lunged at Sherry, but passed right through her and fell to the ground. I hung my head in despair. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the crowd, and I looked up. It was Linda, dressed in black. She held a black and white photo of me to her chest. I smiled faintly. She must have come to avenge me. In the midst of the wedding, Linda's appearance immediately caused a stir. Seeing this, George angrily demanded, "Linda, what are you trying to do? Have you lost your mind?" Linda, expressionless, replied, "You're getting married today, so I brought Julia to attend your wedding." She then looked down at the photograph in her arms. "Julia, I remember you didn't have a wedding when you married him. And you never saw him in his groom's suit. You loved him so much. Why not take a good look now?" I knew Linda was upset with me. After being friends for so many years, she had often advised me not to be so infatuated and said George wasn't worth my love, urging me to wake up sooner. But I never listened. I sighed. If only I had listened to her back then, I wouldn't have met such a tragic end. George, looking at my black and white photo, still couldn't accept the reality of my death. What does Julia really want by doing this? George wondered aloud. Linda shouted back, "She's dead. What tricks can she still play?" She pulled out my cremation certificate from her clothes and threw it at George. George picked up my cremation certificate from the ground, saw the words on it, and his pupils shrank suddenly, only then believing that I was truly dead. His eyes widened in shock. "When did she die?" Linda looked at him coldly. "If you hadn't used despicable means to take Julia's kidney, her other kidney wouldn't have failed, and she wouldn't have had that car accident. George, you killed her, you murderer." George showed a pained expression. How could this happen? I looked at him, feeling nothing inside, because I had stopped loving him long ago. My feelings for him had been completely exhausted. Linda stepped forward and snatched the microphone from the host's hand. She exposed George's crimes in front of everyone. She told them that since marrying me, George had been entangled with Sherry, ignoring me, his wife, and even pressured me to donate a kidney after finding out Sherry had kidney disease. When I refused, he had me knocked out, colluded with the doctor, and without my knowledge, took one of my kidneys to give to Sherry. My health deteriorated because of this, and in a state of confusion, I was hit by a car and killed. Linda looked at George, who was shocked and remorseful, and angrily said, "Stop your pretense. You killed the woman who loved you most in this world. I curse you to never find true love again." George's father stepped forward and slapped George across the face. I gave a thumbs up. Though George's father had always looked down on my poor family, he did not approve of George's despicable actions. Sherry, feeling very guilty, pointed at Linda and said to her relatives, "Grab her, don't let her spout nonsense." Suddenly, a middle-aged man rushed forward. "Sherry, if you don't pay back the money today, I'll spill all your dirty secrets." George recognized him as Sherry's former doctor. "What money?" Sherry said in a panicked tone. "You're talking nonsense. I never owed you money, just go away." But George didn't let him leave. "Explain yourself." The middle-aged man looked at him and sneered. "Your ex-wife really drew the short straw, getting a man like you." George tensed up. "What do you mean?" What the middle-aged man said next shocked everyone present. Sherry didn't actually have kidney disease. She had paid him to pretend to operate and tricked him into selling my kidney. His colleagues found out and reported him, causing his medical license to be revoked and him to lose his job. He demanded compensation from Sherry, who ignored him. George's body shook, and he fell to the ground. Sitting, He hadn't expected Sherry to be such a person, to deceive him for money. Sherry tried to defend herself. George, don't believe what he says. He's lying to you, George yelled at her. Sherry, even now, you're trying to deceive me. Realizing George would no longer believe her, Sherry turned and ran. George sat on the ground, covering his face and sobbing. Honestly, I had never seen him so wretched before. He murmured my name, Julia. Linda didn't linger. She chased after Sherry and stopped her at the roadside. Sherry defensively said, "It's illegal to hit someone." Linda raised her hand and forcefully slapped her, causing Sherry to fall to the ground. Just as she was about to slap her again, she noticed a few older women near a trash bin nearby. She waved them over. "Come and give her a beating, and I'll give each of you $1,000 afterward." The old lady's eyes lit up at the mention of 1,000 yuan. She immediately dropped the cardboard box she was holding and ran over to grab Sherry by the hair. Linda stood by, occasionally throwing in a couple of kicks. Sherry was bound to face legal consequences, but before that, she wanted to take revenge in her own way on my behalf. She truly is my best friend. Watching Sherry lying on the ground screaming, I felt a great sense of relief. Eventually, Sherry's wedding dress was torn. Her hair was a mess, her makeup ruined, and her face was swollen from being slapped. Linda handed the money to the old lady and told them to disperse. This wedding ultimately turned into a complete fiasco. George's father had someone look into Sherry. It turned out that Sherry had already married a wealthy man in his 50s abroad, and after he went bankrupt, she divorced him and returned to her home country. She approached George because she knew his family was wealthy and that he was utterly devoted to her. Intending to deceive him out of his money, George called Linda, asking where I was buried. Linda responded coldly, "You don't deserve to know." George, a bit bewildered, said, I just want to visit her." "What's there to see? Julia doesn't want to see you. If you have any conscience left, don't disturb her." After saying that, Linda hung up the phone. I thought to myself that she really knew me well. Nevertheless, George still found out where I was buried and brought many things to the cemetery. Standing in front of my tombstone, his eyes reddened. He took out a container of yogurt from his bag and poured it on the ground. "Julia, this was your favorite yogurt." I scoffed. My favorite was strawberry flavored, but he bought vanilla. He never really paid attention. George's voice choked up. "I just got used to you loving me and being kind to me, so I thought no matter what I did, you would never leave me. I was wrong, terribly wrong, Julia. I'm sorry, I wronged you, and I regret it so much." Too little, too late. George hugged my tombstone, crying loudly, "Julia, I only now realize you were the one who loved me the most. No matter how late I worked, you would have dinner ready, waiting for me to come home to eat. Whenever I caught a cold or had a fever, you were more worried than I was. It took me too long to see clearly what was in my own heart. You're gone, and I don't know how to live the days without you." Seeing him cry so sorrowfully, I rolled my eyes. When I was alive, he took my feelings and body for granted, and now he pretends to be affectionate after I'm gone. And would he even remember my good qualities if he hadn't learned Sherry's true nature? George looked at my photograph. "Julia, I can't live without you. I love you." After so many years together, this was the first time he had said he loved me, but I no longer cared. Linda called the police. Sherry was arrested and taken in for questioning. During the investigation, it also came to light that she had hired someone to murder me. Even the driver involved in the accident was caught. George went to see her, cursing her as heartless and insane. Sherry, defiant to the end, scoffed, "George, don't you think you're also to blame? Don't forget, you played a part in Julia's death. Without your help, I wouldn't have been able to so smoothly deceive her and get her kidney." George turned pale, his limbs shaking uncontrollably. Reminded by Sherry, he realized that he also bore a great responsibility for my death. George returned home despondently, looking around at the furnishings that brought back memories related to me, his eyes filled with sorrow. He went into the room, opened a drawer, and on top was a diary I had written. It recorded my feelings for him, and detailed his likes and dislikes, which I had noted with great care and precision. George's tears suddenly fell onto the pages. After reading just 2 pages, overwhelmed by immense pain, he hugged my notebook and began to cry. After a long time, he summoned the courage to continue reading. The last page was written when I realized he was treating me as a stand-in for Sherry. Only today did I find out that he was just treating me as a substitute. but I truly loved him. George held his chest, grief-stricken and frustrated. He had always thought that I was unaware he saw me as Sherry's substitute, but I had known for a long time. He picked up a photo frame from the bedside table. It was a picture of us together, the only one we had. George's fingers caressed the frame before he lowered his head to kiss my face in the photo. I raised my hand to wipe my face, clearly disgusted. The doorbell rang. He went to open the door. It was George's mother. He embraced her tightly. "Mom, Julia will never come back. I've lost her forever. It was my fault she died." George's mother patted his back. "George, try not to be too hard on yourself." George cried like a child. "How can I not be upset, Mom? My heart is in so much pain. I really didn't mean for it to happen. The doctor told me that living with one kidney wouldn't significantly impact one's health, that one could live normally. I thought it would be fine." At that time, Sherry lied to me, saying she always loved me, that she didn't want to die and wanted to be with me, so I lost my senses. George's mother sighed, unsure of what to say to comfort him. She could only say, "The dead cannot be brought back to life, and Julia loved you so much, she surely wouldn't blame you." George's mother was ultimately biased towards her son, unwilling to see him blame himself excessively. It was absurd. Sherry was responsible for my death, and he was an accomplice. How could I possibly not blame him? I hated him to death. After George's mother left, George sat alone in the room, lost in thought. Hours later, he stood up, clutching the photo frame, and left the house. He went to the seaside, looked down at my photo in the frame, and said gently, "Julia, don't worry, I'll be with you soon." He was clearly planning to commit suicide by jumping into the sea. No, I had to stop him. He couldn't just die like this. He needed to live. Dying now would only be an escape for him. He didn't deserve it. Besides, I didn't want to run into him after death. How unlucky that would be. Don't taint my cycle of reincarnation. I watched George walk step by step into the sea, and I shouted, come back, come back." Of course, George couldn't hear me. I floated forward, reaching out to grab him, but I was just a spirit. My hand couldn't touch his body. George, intent on dying, slowly submerged into the water. At the critical moment, several passers-by rushed forward and pulled him out of the sea. George coughed up a few mouthfuls of sea water and came to his senses. I breathed a sigh of relief. When George came around, he realized the photo frame was gone. He madly tried to run back into the sea to find it but was restrained by several people. "You've got a death wish. You could die." Watching George desperately trying to retrieve the photo frame was both ironic and laughable. Finally, those people called the police. Knowing George wanted to commit suicide, his father and mother took him back home. Yes, keep a close eye on him. Don't let him have another chance to commit suicide. He can't die. Living is the real torture for him. Perhaps it's karma. Sherry really did develop uremia. I hope she doesn't die too quickly. I want her to slowly endure the pain the disease brings, to taste all sorts of suffering before she passes away. George spends every day locked in his room, not eating or drinking. His parents are very worried about him and even prepared a full meal to coax him to eat, but after much talking, he still didn't respond. Out of desperation, with a worried expression, George's mother said, "George, you should eat something. Julia would be worried seeing you like this." Mentioning my name triggered a reaction in George, and he stood up. George's mother, delighted, pulled him downstairs. When they reached the dining table, George asked, "Why are there only 3 sets of dishes and chopsticks? Julia will be back from work soon." George's parents exchanged a look. "George, Julia, she's gone, gone. Did she go on a business trip?" George slapped his forehead, realizing something. "Right, she did mention yesterday that she would be away on a business trip for a few days. Look at my memory. I forgot." George's mother was shocked. "George, what's wrong with you? Don't scare us." George's father, with a stern face, said, "George, Julia is dead. You need to accept that." George replied unhappily, "Dad, I know you never liked Julia, but you shouldn't curse her. She's my wife." I looked at George, puzzled. Was he having a mental breakdown? George pulled out a chair and sat down, speaking while eating. "Mom, Julia loves ribs. Make some sweet and sour ribs when she gets back from her trip, and braised shrimp. Remember not to add too much salt. She doesn't like it. I used to cook these dishes for him often." He assumed I liked them, but I actually didn't. Indeed, George was having a mental breakdown. He couldn't accept that I was dead, let alone that he was the one who caused my death. Failed suicide attempts and various shocks had driven him to this state. George's parents wanted to take him to see a psychologist. He refused, insisting he was perfectly healthy. George's parents were at a loss. They thought he might return to normal after some time, but his condition only worsened. He not only hallucinated that I wasn't dead, but he also felt as if I was right there with him, sharing meals and sleeping beside him. Mom and Dad, next month Julia and I are going on a trip, and we'll bring you some gifts. Even more bizarre, he claimed I was pregnant and had given him a child. George's mother fainted from the shock. George's father forcibly took him to see a psychologist, but to little effect. Eventually, he completely lost his mind. Clutching a doll and calling it his daughter, he knew I wanted a daughter, especially in the early years of our marriage, but he refused, saying he was too busy with work and worried about neglecting the child. In reality, he wasn't worried about neglecting the child. He simply didn't want a child with me. Now, what's the point? George's father even sought out Linda, hoping she could help persuade George. Let's see if his condition can improve. Linda went, not to persuade George, but to see just how miserable he looked now. George sat in the living room, holding a doll, softly cooing, "Be good, baby, Mommy will be back from work soon to join us. Shall we wait for Mommy together?" Linda shook her head. "He's truly lost it, brought it upon himself. Serves him right," George's father angrily said. "I asked you here to talk some sense into my son, not to scold him." Linda snorted coldly. "Your son caused the death of my best friend, and you expect me to repay evil with kindness and help him?" Wishful thinking. George suddenly stood up, looking bewildered, and asked, "Who did you say died?" Linda faced him. "Julia died because of you, George. Don't think you can escape the mistakes you've made by feigning insanity. I'm telling you, no matter what you do, you can't atone for it. Julia will never forgive you." George's expression was vacant. He looked down at the doll in his arms and muttered, "Mommy won't die, right, baby? Mommy will always be with us." Linda stressed, "Julia is dead. She's dead." George's body trembled, his eyes dilated and lifeless. "Julia is dead. I killed her, baby. What do I do? What do I do?" Suddenly, he rushed towards the wall. George's mother screamed in horror. George survived, but when he regained consciousness, he reverted to his mad state. "It seems this will be his state for the rest of his life. Those who caused my death have met their fate, and my resentment is gradually fading. The emissaries of death found me, ready to take me for reincarnation. Then, following them to the road of the underworld, the death told me that I was a good, kind-hearted person in life, and had done many good deeds, so I would be reborn into a good family." I smiled. Finally, I can be reincarnated. Once I drink this bowl of forget love potion, I'll completely erase the memories of George, and in my next life, I hope never to meet him again. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, let's continue to see another similar moving story. They began to love me after I died. After the true daughter returned, I was diagnosed with cancer, and those family members who couldn't wait for me to die all begged me not to leave them. My family couldn't wait for me to die, and then I died. But it seems they weren't as happy as I had imagined. They all pleaded with me not to die, but I truly didn't want to live any longer. Holding the medical report in my hands, my body couldn't help but tremble. I didn't expect such a result. Perhaps even heaven couldn't bear to watch someone like me, who had usurped someone else's place. I caressed my phone, attempting to call my family, but all I ever received was the emotionless voice of an automated system. How could I forget? I was driven out. When Anna came back, I no longer had a home. I was just an adopted daughter in the Smith family. Just as I was about to give up, my phone suddenly rang. I joyfully picked up the phone only to see my sister's name on the display. Ironically, she was the last person I expected to hear from. "I'm getting married soon, to Frank. I hope you can attend." I sniffled, forcing myself to look up at the sky to stop my tears from falling. Frank, the man I once secretly loved. But that was all in the past. I knew this wasn't a provocation. Anna, just like our mother, was kind-hearted. "You could have accepted the money from our brother," I interrupted her. "When is the wedding?" I didn't want to hear Anna describe her family's situation anymore. "In 2 months." There was a hesitation in her voice. "I reckoned, the doctors gave me 3 more months to live." That should be enough, I'll be there, you can come back anytime, I've already explained everything to them. True to her mother's kindness, unlike my crass and unbearable self, I couldn't help but interrupt again, replying sharply, this is your home, what would I return for? Can you stop pretending? I can't stand people like you. The line went silent, and then the call was disconnected. The winters in City C are unbearable. I caught the last train, there were just a few people scattered around. I leaned against the window seat, clutching a pack of cigarettes. Alone, I often found myself lost in thought. I remembered it was a cold winter like this when I was brought back from the orphanage by my mother. It was my brother who had picked me. I was an abandoned child, unwanted and small due to malnutrition, often bullied as it was commonplace there. The children there were not mentally healthy. Having stayed there long enough, I learned to fight back. Once, I fought back fiercely and ended up cracking someone's head with a brick. The orphanage punished me, no food was given. That day, while they were selecting children for adoption in the hall, I sneaked into the dining hall to steal some food. At that time, my mischievous brother also sneaked into the dining hall to hide. That's how we met. Back then, I just thought he was handsome, so I squatted down to chat with him. The objectives of children are so pure. His eyes red, he said, my sister is gone. Mom wants to find a new sister, but I don't like it. With 2 pieces of bread stuffed in my mouth, muffled and unclear, patted my chest and told him, I can be your sister, I'll replace her, but a sister is unique, I just like my previous sister. I frowned, thinking, then you don't want them to be your sisters either. Let me tell you, they are terrifying. I raised my hand, making a frightening face. To me, they were indeed terrifying. They always bullied those younger than themselves. Little Ray might have been scared. He shivered. In a low voice, he asked, really? I answered earnestly, if you don't let me be your sister, they will bully you often. In the end, I was still taken back. Ray was initially afraid of me, but I stuck to him like a little tail, always following him around. His friends always teased me, saying I was like a little dog he kept, doing whatever he said. That was the first time I saw him so angry. He even fought with that person. It was then that he truly accepted me. At that time, he said, she's not some little dog, she's my sister, Tina. My name is Tina. My father chose this name in memory of his daughter Anna, but he was also very kind to me, as though he was compensating for someone else through me. My mother felt the same way. When I opened my eyes, I had already missed my stop. There were no more buses, so I had no choice but to walk back. I tucked my cold hands into my pockets where a crumpled report was also stuffed. I rented the cheapest basement I could find, and from a distance, I saw someone waiting at the entrance. As I approached, I realized it was my brother. I intended to pass by without greeting him, but he grabbed my wrist. Ray's tone was icy. Can't you just stop haunting us? Can't you just leave Nana alone? The nickname, Nana, which was originally mine, had been taken from me. Ray used to whisper, Nana, in my ear. But our parents forbade him from calling me that. Back then, I said I didn't like the name, so Ray secretly promised to take me to change it when I came of age. I jerked my hand away and stared back defiantly. I've always been like this, never one to back down. How am I interfering in her life? Don't cause trouble at their wedding. Isn't it enough that you've caused her to end up like this? I fell silent. I didn't know how I had supposedly ruined her, that day, out of spite towards Ray. I wasn't paying attention while driving and ended up hitting Anna when she darted out, but it wasn't really my fault. Anna had been chased due to school bullying and had run across the street, right into the path of my car. Though I wasn't at fault, the accident left Anna unable to walk ever again. Brother, why do you always have to blame everything on me? If she hadn't run out, would this have happened? I knew just what to say to anger Ray. It was her own fault. How can you blame me? How can you say such a thing? If I hadn't hit her, would you have found her? You should be thanking me. No one rebutted my words. I didn't know why. Was it because what I said was true, or was Ray too shocked to respond? I left right away, unwilling to waste my already limited life here with Ray. I wish it hadn't been Anna I hit that day. If that accident never happened, my parents would never have known Anna was their daughter. My father would still be kind to me. My mother would still speak softly to me. Thinking of this, my cheeks started to burn with pain. It should have healed long ago, but for some reason, it still hurt. I haven't slept well, or rather, since Anna came back, I haven't had a single good night's sleep. Every day is a blur. I had a nightmare last night, all about a kindergarten scene, followed by the day I was driven out. As I expected, my mother called. She struggled to maintain her composure, her tone unusually cold. You promised us before, you wouldn't step back into our lives. Words stuck in my throat as I automatically retorted, I didn't, it was you who contacted me, it was indeed you who reached out to me, and I didn't even want to attend that wedding. If Anna hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known about it. I used to think you just had a bad temper. I didn't realize you were so malicious. Words lodged in my throat, unable to be spoken, and my stomach hurt terribly. I curled up, clutching my abdomen tightly. You can have as much money as you want. Can't you just leave us alone? Look what you've done to our family. My ears rang. I couldn't clearly hear what she said afterwards. The gentle voice kept playing over and over in my mind. Anna, darling, you are truly the apple of your mother's eye. Our little one has such a good temperament, not like those who only know how to scheme. Don't worry, Anna. Your brother will always look out for you. Anna, to me, you're the only sister I acknowledge. Perhaps even my body found these words hard to bear, as it seemed to automatically block out the sound. I passed out. It was the landlord coming to collect rent who found me. I didn't die. I came back to life. But the doctor said, my lifespan has been shortened again. I might only have 2 months left. The landlord must have been really scared by me. After compensating for breaking the lease, she kicked me out. That day, the snow was falling heavily, and I was sobbing loudly as I hugged my suitcase. I didn't cry when I was kicked out. I didn't cry when I was bullied by the people at the orphanage. I didn't cry when my parents hit and scolded me. But at that moment, I cried, because I knew that this time, I really had no home. There was nowhere left for me to go. Dragging my suitcase, I made my way to the cheapest hotel nearby. As I bent over to light a cigarette, someone walked in front of me, and I looked up in annoyance. The person was blocking my light. It was the hotel's security personnel. Before I could speak, he was the first to break the silence. Are you Alice? I was stunned. It had been a long time since I had heard that name. It was the name I had given myself at the orphanage. People say that having a name means having a home, a sense of belonging. I looked up seriously at him, no recollection at all. Seeing my confusion, he blushed and hurriedly explained, I am that little black you used to protect. Seeing his goofy smile, I remembered a little, but I couldn't muster any interest. I replied nonchalantly, long time no see, and then continued dragging my suitcase. He rushed to take over my suitcase. Let me help you. You seem thinner, Alice. You've become even more beautiful. Why are you staying here, Alice? Weren't you adopted? He was really talkative. I wanted to shut him up. I couldn't muster interest in anything, feeling like a drowning person with no strength to struggle. Yet, I still wanted to see the person I love get married. I love Frank. He was the last ray of light in my dreary days. Unfortunately, he never loved me. I leaned heavily against the window in the hotel room, the bright lights below not belonging to me. Days passed in a blur. Finally, it was my beloved who woke me up. The phone had rung for a long time before I answered it. Frank seemed to have made a big decision. His voice was particularly hoarse. Can you stop bothering us? Because of you, these past few days at home have been. He didn't finish his sentence, but I knew he could never be the person worth my affection again. I won't attend. Don't worry, Anna. There's no need to be upset. You can still come back, Frank. Don't you think you're being a coward? He was silent for a while, his voice even hoarser. I have no choice, no choice. So you just abandon me? I couldn't cry anymore, my eyes too dry to shed any tears. Haven't you long accepted the nature of our relationship? Haven't you always known who I am? I thought I should have yelled, but I simply didn't have the strength. Frank, like this, you really make me think you are weak. Frank seemed to explode on the other end. But if I don't do this, how can I protect you? I am just an adopted son of the Fu family. They treat you as a substitute, and I'm just a plaything. How am I supposed to protect you? Both sides fell silent. It was I who shattered the silence of the moment. Frank, you really disgust me. I tried to drown myself. Yet, someone had to meddle and save me. It was Little Black. He must have been shaken by the sight of me slashing my wrists in the bathroom that day. For the past couple of days since I came to, he hasn't left my side. I looked at him. Suddenly, I felt like telling him everything. Holding a cigarette, he refused to light it for me. I'm actually very selfish. To get out of the orphanage, I threatened Ray. I told him all the kids there were bad. In Little Black's expression, there was no mockery, only sympathy. I know they see me as a substitute. I tried hard to study, but they didn't want me to become her. They think their daughter is unique. I intentionally tried to please Ray because as he grew up, I was scared that one day he would overpower me and send me back. Once, after Ray and his friend got into a fight because of me, that was the day I truly became his sister. I spoke slowly, as if narrating a story that couldn't be simpler. I used to think that living this way wasn't too bad. As long as Anna didn't return, I could forever be the cuckoo in the nest. But then one day I bumped into someone, and I was terrified. I ended up in the hospital needing a blood transfusion. My parents rushed over, protecting me fiercely. When they found out their blood type could be used for the transfusion, they let the doctor take it. Suddenly, I thought of something funny and looked up at Little Black with a smile. But as I smiled, I started to cry. The doctor came out of the emergency room and told us that direct relatives couldn't give each other blood. There's not much more to say about what happened after that. I carefully watched Little Black's expression. It was hard to read, but mostly filled with compassion. I lifted the cigarette, and he understood, but he lit it for me anyway. He knew how much pain I was in. Smoking might ease it a little. He just stayed close and said, "Try to smoke less. It's not good for a girl to have scars." I scoffed, treating me like a child with such a big wound. How could it possibly not leave a scar? We got along surprisingly well these days. But fate didn't want me to have it easy. I fell seriously ill. Little Black, with red eyes, told me I nearly didn't make it through that night. Since then, I've often seen his eyes red, a big, burly man, crying over and over for me. I even secretly mocked him several times, but he didn't mind. "Hey, what's your name? I can't always call you Little Black." "My name is Bennett." "That's a nice name." I nodded, seriously looking at him and asking, "Do you like me?" Bennett blushed but nodded honestly. I was pleased. I'm going to die soon, and I've never been in love. I want to experience it with you. Bennett seemed unhappy with my words, frowning, but then shocked and speechless by what I said next. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "You shouldn't be so casual." "Where am I being casual? Or do you think that's just how I am?" I was upset. "I didn't mean that. I meant, I'm not worthy of you." I paused for a moment, smiled, and shook my head. "I'm about to die. There's no such thing as worthy or unworthy, Bennett. I don't want my life to end stuck in this hospital room. There are so many things I still want to do. Can you do them with me?" I looked at Bennett, but from beginning to end, his eyes only held me. They were filled with sincerity. The first thing I did was change my name. I changed it to Alice. I was brimming with happiness that day, while Bennett quietly followed behind me, carefully tightening the scarf around my neck to shield me from the cold. "Bennett, I'm so happy. I've changed my name. I'm no longer Tina. I have my own name now." A smile finally broke through Bennett's typically stern expression. He nodded and took my hand. His warm hand enveloped my icy one. I was afraid of chilling him and tried to pull away, but he held on tightly, whispering, "I'll keep Alice warm." I feel so fortunate to have met Bennett in the final moments of my life. The second thing I want to do is go to the prairie to fly kites, something Frank promised me. I didn't want to trouble Bennett. After all, he's just a humble security guard. He shouldn't have to spend so much money on someone who's dying. But I really wanted to go. I really did. I had saved up enough money from some temp jobs I took without telling Bennett. I never expected to run into Ray. He had lost a lot of weight and seemed to have come deliberately to find me. "What's your relationship with that security guard?" "What's it to you? You're mine. You're my sister. How can you say we're nothing to each other?" "I haven't been for a long time." Eventually, Bennett backed down. "Do you know what kind of person he is? To be so close to him." I lifted my face defiantly. "Now, Bennett is the only one who treats me well. No one can speak ill of him." "What does it matter to you what kind of person he is? Didn't you say you didn't want to see me anymore?" "Tina," Ray's lips trembled. "Perhaps Ray didn't expect me to defend someone else like this. How could you change like this? What I've become is none of your business. Mom and Dad miss you." "Miss who?" "If they miss Tina, I'm sorry, but I've changed my name. I'm now called Alice." I sniffled. "Didn't you say you hoped all of Anna's pain would transfer to me? You told me not to contact you. Why are you here now?" "I'm doing very well, and I'm begging you, please don't disturb my life anymore." My emotions teetered on the brink of collapse. Blood streamed from my nose, severe abdominal pain overwhelmed me, and I fainted once again. When I awoke, I recognized the familiar scent of disinfectant and heard sobbing nearby. Lifting my eyelids, I saw Mrs. Smith, my former mother, with red, tear-filled eyes, and beside her, my silent father. I thought I was dreaming. All the injustices of the past days erupted, and with teary eyes, I asked them why they didn't want me. Didn't you say, even if she came back, I'd still be your daughter? I really didn't know she would lash out like that. I really didn't mean it. I sobbed uncontrollably. Mrs. Smith held me tightly, continuously trying to soothe me, but I could barely comprehend her words. They wanted me to live, but I've always resisted chemotherapy. I don't like it. They often came, and so did Frank. Talking to me regularly, even though I ignored him, he often ended up crying and apologizing. I still haven't forgiven them, but my time has passed, and I'm withering away. My health is deteriorating. I still want to go to the prairie to fly kites. Unable to sleep, I sat in my hospital bed late into the night, listening to the drip of the four. Suddenly, footsteps approached, and I looked towards the door. Bennett was there, carrying a backpack. His eyes glowed under the dim corridor lights. He looked at me and said 2 words, "Let's go." Startled, I smiled at him. "Where to?" "We're going to fly kites on the grasslands." Tears welled up in my eyes. "But I don't have any money." "I do." I laughed, tears falling down my cheeks. That day, I truly escaped the hospital and boarded the train to the grasslands. I leaned on Bennett and asked him, "How did you know?" "It was in your diary." "Did you not come to see me these days because you were making money?" Bennett nodded. "Aren't you afraid of wasting it? After all Bennett cut off my next words with a kiss, full of possessiveness. The journey was tough for me, but Bennett took great care of me. Still, I could feel life slipping away. After changing trains a couple of times, we finally reached the grasslands. It was just like in the books, vast, the air was fresh. Bennett bought a kite, but I no longer had the strength to stand. He carried me, placing the kite string in my hands, letting me control it. I watched the kite soar higher and higher until I could no longer hold it, and I let it go. I let myself go, and Bennett, ignoring the kite, just carried me slowly walking. He wanted me to see the grasslands, but I could no longer open my eyes. Extra story from Ray. I have a secret that no one knows. I'm in love with my sister, my adopted sister. The first time I saw her, I thought she was so beautiful, just too thin. Later, she threatened me and became my sister. But she seemed afraid that I would abandon her, so I would secretly wait for her after school, afraid she wouldn't find me and would panic. One day, someone said she was a dog I was raising. I got angry. "She's not a dog I'm raising, she's my sister." I fought with that person. That was the first time she cried. She cried terribly, but I had only been scratched a bit. It took me a long time to console her. From that day on, I decided, I can't let her cry again. I know our parents see her as my sister Anna. But I don't. She is unique in my heart. I only like her. That liking had already started to change, but I hadn't realized it. It was when I found out she had a crush on Frank. I was furious, and from that time, I knew, I liked my sister. I tried many times to escape, but liking someone isn't something I can control. So, I could only be cold to her. Finally, one day, my real sister came back. Because of her, my sister will never be able to stand again, yet I still liked her. I didn't know how to treat her. I clearly knew I shouldn't blame her. After another argument, our parents drove her out. I didn't say anything. I thought, if she was driven away, then she wouldn't be my sister anymore, then I could be with her. But one day, I suddenly heard that my sister was coming to Frank's wedding. I couldn't hold back any longer and went to find her. My words were cold. I wanted to break it off with her. So I started not contacting her until one day, I saw her in a restaurant and couldn't help but follow her. I found out she was living with a security guard. That made me even angrier. I went to find her, but I hadn't expected what would happen next. She fell ill. The day she was admitted to the hospital, I was too afraid to visit her. I didn't have the courage to face her potential death. I resorted to drinking heavily. Then one day, she ran away. I knew where she was but chose not to go. It seemed that by not going, she wouldn't die. It wasn't until a security guard returned with her ashes that I truly understood she was gone forever. The little girl who used to follow him around was no more. I had truly missed her. Extra story of the Smith family. A damp towel swept over the tombstone. Anna's eyes curved slightly. Mrs. Smith gently placed some fruit in front of the tombstone, while Frank held a little girl's hand. Mr. Smith's temples were now flecked with gray. They chatted endlessly. All of them had visited before. Anna said she never blamed her. Frank had struggled to let go, only finding peace over the last 8 years. Mrs. Smith initially came crying, unable to speak clearly. Mr. Smith visited the most often. He didn't talk much, simply gazing at the tombstone and gently touching it as if the person there had never left. He often brought things, treating her like his little princess, sparing her any hardship. Later, they seemed to come to terms with her passing. But each would still talk endlessly in front of the tombstone. They all knew they couldn't let go, but life had to go on. They couldn't end things as that young boy had, jumping into the sea with her ashes. Extra story of Bennett. My mom died when I was very young, and my dad, who lost money gambling, used to beat me. I finally managed to escape and ended up in an orphanage where I was bullied by others because I was so small, but there was always a girl who would protect me. She asked me to call her Alice. Later, Alice left, and I secretly ran away from the orphanage too. I wanted to find Alice. Knowing she was okay would be enough for me. Back then, I was just a kid without an ID or anything, forced to survive as a beggar and occasionally stealing food from others. One day, I encountered Alice at a school, but she didn't recognize me, and I didn't dare reveal my identity, feeling like a coward. But Alice was truly kind. She even gave me her breakfast, squatting beside me and urging, "Eat up, don't go hungry." Knowing she was doing well, I didn't want to disturb her life. I don't even know how I grew up, sneaking around and ending up in juvenile detention a few times. After the police understood my situation, they helped me get an ID. And I finally settled in the city. I worked hard, though I'm not sure why, maybe just to catch a glimpse of her from afar, or perhaps to numb myself. Later, I couldn't believe it when she reappeared in front of me, not recognizing me. She was living well, so why she came to such a modest hotel puzzled me. I thought it simple enough just to look after her. She often ordered takeout, but one day, I gathered the courage to cook for her. However, when I knocked, there was no answer. I barged in only to find her unconscious in the bathtub, her wrists slashed. I was frantic. I couldn't understand what had happened to the strong girl from my childhood, but later she opened up to me. All I felt was heartache for her, and later, I learned she was ill. At the tender age of a blooming flower, she was already beginning to wither. She asked me to be her boyfriend, but I felt unworthy. She was so wonderful, and I felt I didn't deserve her. Eventually, we ended up together. She changed her name and started to become more optimistic. For a while, she kept pushing me away. I knew it, but I couldn't bear to confront it. It wasn't until I read her diary that I understood all that she wanted to do. Then she fell ill again. I watched her brother take her to the hospital. I zipped up my coat and threw myself into my work. My co-workers joked that I acted as if I had never seen money before. Whenever I could, I went to the construction site, taking on various jobs. Finally, I took her away, but she would forever lie on my back. I still hadn't spoken to her. Bennett really liked Alice, so I decided to go find her. Alice had mentioned it in her diary. If possible, she also wanted to see the ocean. She must be waiting for me there. I would take her too. I clutched the urn tightly and jumped. I waited for her. I wanted to tell her, Bennett really liked you. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.